working.
Oh yeah. Work hard. Play hard.
That's right, my dudes. This thing's starting to spin up. So today we're going to be going through a real quick walkthrough of if you are getting into like an AlphaPex DG1 Plus. That could be the 12 gigahash, 13 gigahash, all the way to the 16 gigahash units, of how their startup works and why that matters. And we're going to bring you guys kind of an explanation on what happens here. So as you see this machine starting to start up, at about 2,300 watts right now. All right, my dudes, here it is. So at your full startup, we're at 4338. You can see it climbing. So it takes it about 5 minutes to get here. But here we are at almost 4,400 watts to the wall. You guys can see we're at 277. So 4,400 right there. And again, this is still not registering hash yet, but it's cooking. But this out of the box, and you can see the board's showing 1 minute, but 4,450. Well, we might actually get 4,500. Now this is on normal mode. There's normal and low power. And in low power, you're gonna get roughly 4,000 watts. So on startup, even in low power, you'll still rip 4,000 watts. So it's 500 more watts on startup. And this will not hold this. It'll go back down to about 3,900, where it's rated at. But this is what I'm talking about from AlphaPex. If you're gonna be using these and you're gonna be plugging them into your guys' setup here, that is quite a bit of electricity on startup. So I'm gonna make sure that you guys can see that this thing actually starts running, you know, the actual meter here. We'll give this page a refresh here. Oh, there it goes. You'll see this, it'll jump up to about 15 gigahash. We're still at close to 5,600 watts from the wall. And again, this could create some issues if your farm is not set up to handle a whole bunch of those at the same exact time on startup. Here you see we're at 11 gigahash. This thing will land at about 14 gigahash in total. We're still at almost 5,600 watts. Looks like it's gonna try to break it, but I don't know if it's going to. Oh, there it is. We got 4,600 watts. Now we're at that. So then if I go into the AlphaPex tool, you guys can see here of what it's saying we're at, right? So you guys can see this here. You can see the power's off low on this tool. I can do another little monitor, which should update this. Still hasn't updated this thing here, but it does show work mode normal. If we wanted to change this, you go into here, you check that box. A remote control, that's it, remote control. And then you would set this into a non-normal mode. And if you overclock, we haven't even tried that yet on these. The power save is your low power. Overclock more than likely would just hold that 4,500 and you'd end up going to 16 gigahash. But that's for another video. We'll do that one when it's a little less cool outside. And here we are again, still 4,600 watts. Ultimately, it will calm down to around 3,900 and it'll stay around that 13 to 14 gigahash. but she really rips her for a little bit, and you can see that. I mean, this video's been going on for a couple minutes. Now let's go into the room and I'll explain that you can step that down or have a staged process on this. We're gonna go over here. I started kind of lining out kind of how this works, my dude. So in this kind of setup here, we have a Bitmain N5V2 container. It has a 1600 amp, 3-phase setup. So, and it's 480 that we're running, and we're stepping it down to 277V per leg. Now, if you had, in this config, the N5V2s have a total of 207 spots. 3 different towers in there. So those are 3 sections in the container. And essentially, this is, you can lay it out as each of these are one leg of it, right? So like you have a total of 69 units per rack here. And if we were at that full, let's just say 4,300 watts, we'd be at almost 300 kW per section there. That's effectively almost 900 kW for this one 20-foot container if they were running in that mode all the time. So you can see here, if you're only like this site here, we have 2 N1s that have a total space of 54 per section. That's 162 units per each of these. And then you have 207, right? So if we did all these at that 4,300 watts, we'd be at 600 kW, and almost 900 kW. So that's 12. We'd be almost 2.2 or so megawatt at this site that is only rated at 1,500 kVA, which is 1.5 megawatts. And that's continuous max. So this is what I'm talking about, having to manage like how many in here. So essentially we end up having these containers to only have about 80 or so machines per container here. And then this one has roughly about 180 or so in there. And then when we go to step these up, we do it at 1 box at a time based on VLAN. So if we're in a curtailment, so let's say we're just running constant at 1.5 megawatts, and then we curtail all the way down to where essentially we're only using about 500 watts in the whole site, because that's just the internet and some other stuff. And then when we go to spin back up, we gotta be, no matter what on a curtailment, these things, if we let them all come up, we'd at least punch up to 1.77. That's the highest we've done this. This is when we first discovered kind of like this issue, right? Now here's the problem here, is the power company, they do 15-minute polling, which means every 15 minutes they're taking a snapshot of what our peak is. This delta here, 270,000 watt delta, they could end up charging us on our rates. We have a rate table, a CP and an NCP, which is non-coincidental peak and coincidental peak, and then our transmission, and then tax. Our rate's pretty straightforward. These rates, 0.0334, so 3-cent energy rate, but these are seasonal. So these change, and these can be based on an NCP rate could be 0.06 cents per kW, which is pretty cheap. And then this one was about $7. And so essentially, and then this is a very, very small, the transmission, we avoid almost all the transmission cost. It's something stupid low, which, I mean, a lot of people this is where they end up getting burned on most of the rates, is because of the transmission, where we're right next to, we're next to a source of energy plus a substation, so they're not really hitting us on transmission. And then we have tax. Well, these rates right now for our summer rates are something stupid. $22 and some change here, and $9.50 here. So by participating in the program, the LMR, which is the load modifying rate program, we can avoid this whole thing on what we're registered. So we're registered for this particular site as an example for 1.1 megawatt over the summer, meaning I need to keep this site at 1.1. If I have this situation where it spikes, this delta, I'm gonna have to pay that rate. So if we're on this calculation, it would be essentially a 270 times the $22. So I would be charged whatever my registration rate would be on that. So if these machines would spike up there, so I mean, I might get an extra 4K charge on this site because I'm not managing the startup correctly, if that makes sense. So this is why this matters in Bitcoin mining, is all this little gotchas, man. And it's not that they're trying to get you, they're setting the rate table, but this is the maintenance aspects of what we're talking about. So controlling the way each of these guys ramp up, you know, to where I'm starting this one, 10 minutes later, once I see this side settle down, then this VLAN starts, and then this VLAN starts, and then I'll have kind of this like stair step kind of peak. But the actual reality is it's starting up, it's peaking, it's coming down. Now I'm at steady state. Then I start the next one up, it peaks, it starts down, steady state, and then where I need to be at the top is like here. So then I need to make sure that I'm only starting what I need to never peak past this. So I want this no more than up here, right? And then it's gonna stay flat. So it's just really managing that I don't ever peak past this piece here. And if we need to, we will top off these to slow them down and play this kind of whack-a-mole to where I don't peak over, because if they capture me at this point, whatever this delta is, this little shaded area here, I'm paying for. So that is kind of a ramp schedule. I call it ramp schedule. So if people are telling you, like, if they're telling you, hey, we know curtailment, we know how to go to curtailment, not every curtailment is created equal. You got to understand your rate. You got to understand when they're going to capture those rates. You got to understand the pricing on it, and you got to understand the way your farm reacts based on the types of machine you have to do. There is config to it. There is some science to it. There's some network logic that you can do. You can do it through like a tool like Foreman, those kind of things, but you've got to manage it at this level when you're playing at those kind of levels, because the difference here on this type of setup could be a bill that is $40,000 a month if everything's done right, where if you miss your curtailments on time for this one would be the 1,100 times that 7. So this could be an $8,500 extra bill that could ding you if you miss your curtailments. And then on this type of setup, it would be, you could also mess this up and get another 4,000. So the penalty for failures on this in this kind of scenario could be a difference between a $40,000 bill or a 52,000. So, well, I messed that up there, but it's 52K. So a $12,000 delta just by managing it wrong. Now, you know, my dudes, I know this was a long one for you today, but this will be a good weekend, and then we'll have another vlog start up on Monday. Let me know if these things help you guys. I'll see you guys on the next one.